Welcome to Fast Politics, Sam.
Hi, great to be here. Great to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. I think of you as like just a very smart person who is good at talking.
Oh, that's good. I hope I live up to your expectations. You set the bar high for your listeners.
I think we have to talk about this. So they
Sure.
arrested a judge in Wisconsin. She's a county judge, elected, partisan. But here's the real, I feel like, disconcerting truth. She's partisan in that she believes that people
In
should
the
have
rule of law.
rights, right?
Yeah.
And she believes in the rule, but she also believes, like, people should have rights even if they are not in this country legally, which is also something that our very conservative Supreme Court believes. So make it make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is just in the abstract something that's very concerning about this political moment that we all would have to agree, yeah, well, she's a partisan. But what that means nowadays is that one party cares at all about the rules, norms, laws, constitutional legality, and one of them does not. And so, what does
Right.
nonpartisan mean anymore? I find it pretty disturbing. I don't know the details of this case. What were the circumstances of her arrest?
I
I mean, I
I
read the headlines.
so the Washington Post has a story. Again, this is like one of these things where it's a new story. It's just reported on, so there's more facts coming up. But the Washington Post had a story on it. She was in trouble because she had an illegal immigrant in her courtroom for a battery charge, which is not related to his. This is like, again, these are the results of criminalizing what is not meant, which has not been until the Trump administration a criminal activity, which is being in this country illegally, right? That was not a criminal activity until Trumpism criminalized it, right? It was civil, or it was a federal, but it was not a criminal activity, and now it is. So this judge who let this man go out a different door because ICE was waiting outside of the courtroom to get him.
Yeah.
Again, something that is a new Trump phenomenon, having ICE allowed in federal or state courthouses.
Hmm.
Um, and he was chased down by ICE and arrested. These are the same ICE agents who we've seen arresting people not wearing plain clothes, covering their faces. There may be some connection. Some of them are connected to local militias, right? We saw
Right.
that in reporting in the Washington Post. She has been arrested now. So the
Right.
question is, all of these are new circumstances brought to bear because of Trumpism, because Trump has changed the designation of certain crimes. But the question is, like, does this mean, again, this is like yet another moment of like, are we in a constitutional crisis? ICE is certainly acting in a way they did not act with any other president ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and these kinds of situations where you don't know how dire, how far along the path to full authoritarianism
Right.
we are, produces these kinds of moments where someone like this judge or someone else in a position of momentary authority over somebody else's life has to make this decision like, well, do I trust this, like pseudo Gestapo to treat this person according to the law or according to their human rights? And I think increasingly we're seeing situations where, in an encouraging way, people make a decision that's like, no, this is an extreme circumstance and it demands a kind of moral courage that would seem to be norm breaking in another circumstance. I'm not saying that that's necessarily true about this judge. I don't know the details.
Right.
But what it reminds me of is just, in the first Trump administration, there were also circumstances where people, were they felt the need to do something extreme to protect against an extreme behavior by the administration. But then there was this very strong impulse that, well, if we break norms in reaction to their norm breaking, are we just setting up this kind of inevitable domino
Decline.
chain decline of consecutive norm breaking? I feel like, and I never really got there in the first administration. I'm here now. I'm there now. That we really kind of are out in the breach. We're in a very, very, very dire situation, where the kinds of choices people have to make about what's normal and not normal to do, I think those things are changing. I mean, you see it with the universities, for example, who were first kind
Right.
of like, all right, come on campus, sure, detain these students, sure, we'll make a deal with you or whatever. But then it becomes clear that no, this isn't a normal administration. It isn't just new people in charge with different values. It's getting very, very dire and very, very bleak. And it used to be that when we talked this way in the first administration, and I did sometimes, we were, accused of having Trump derangement syndrome, or
Right.
like
Right.
kind of having some kind of secret
TD.
unstated
Yeah.
wish, a
Right.
wish for there to be a real authoritarian situation. But actually, this is just kind of a normal, very bad Republican administration. It's not so different. But I just don't think that story
No.
stands up anymore, because it seems very clear that they're willing to go all the way in every single direction and on every single issue all at once. That just changes the situation as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's funny because it's like I vacillate between being like, "These guys are so stupid, it's great." Like,
Yeah.
here they are arresting a judge in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
Wisconsin, where they just lost a judicial election that
Yeah.
Elon Musk put in $30 million, okay? So, like,
Right.
obviously, Wisconsin is gonna be a place, it's a purple state, where this kind of thing is gonna stand out in a way that it wouldn't in, say, Armadillo, Texas. Like, you could arrest whoever you want in,
Yeah.
in Texas's 1st district. I mean, I heard once from a member of Congress who was running for office there that they didn't open the polls on time, and that he had seen Proud Boys around the area or some kind of neo militia like.
Hmm.
There are things you could. This is a huge country. There is a lot of room for this federal government to do in crazy stuff. But
Yeah.
when you do it in Wisconsin to a partisan Democrat who has
Yeah.
been elected, and I mean, I just think they constantly do things which are, like if you wanted to enact authoritarianism the way they
Right.
have in Hungary, there is a playbook for that, and it's slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
No, I think that's right.
yeah.
I mean, it's weird. It's always been weird with Trump to feel, and with Trump world and the MAGA movement to feel like our greatest protection against their, most extreme designs is their incompetence,
Yes.
and their recklessness. But
Yeah.
that may be the case. I mean, that's clearly the case right now with the trade war, which is just
Yeah.
not going to be popular. And it is
Let's-
they're definitely shooting themselves in the foot. It's definitely the reason that his numbers are going down. I just think it's
Right.
obvious. And you just have to, it's just crazy to be in a situation where we're like, oh, thank goodness these people are idiots. Because obviously there are situations where their recklessness is totally consonant with
Right.
their dangerousness. Um, but I agree. I agree with you about that. And well, we just it is. I take your point very much about if they wanted to do this right,
Right.
which is to say, to do it
They want to.
successfully and
Right.
strategically. If they wanted to really fundamentally change this country without igniting some kind of resistance movement and resistance from the institutions of this country, they would have started slow, and they would have built on the license and the kind of sense of, that period of time right after he was elected when Democrats were like,
Right.
well, I guess this is just a conservative country. We're just going to have to go along with it. And, people saying, let's
Right.
make deals. We can work with these people. Let's face the facts, taking that moment of kind of legitimacy and building on it by doing things that were really popular for a while and kind of magnanimous even.
Yeah.
And then you can gradually turn the screws on the authoritarian agenda. But they didn't do it that way. They went
Yeah.
with this other thing. And it's, I am, you know, it's just a weird situation to be in because I'm simultaneously relieved that they're doing it so recklessly and also made absolutely crazed
Yeah.
by the kind of ferocity of it.
Yeah.
And the feeling that you just never know what they're going to do. Oh, the FBI director is going to get on Twitter and said, we arrested a judge. And like, aren't you so
Uh-huh.
happy? Aren't
Oh,
you so
and then he
thrilled?
deletes it.
I know. I think my sense was that he deleted it because he said in the post, we believe that she did this or that. And it's like, okay, you arrested a judge because you heard something. That's a pretty extreme thing to do. But yeah, I'm with you. It's a whiplash though to feel like relieved that they're more reckless and stupid than you could possibly have imagined.
Yes, I agree. It's a whiplash, but it's also, I want to get back to the tariffs because the tariffs are the single thing. Like Ken Griffin, okay, major Republican donor, biggest
Yeah,
donor of the cycle, did not donate to Trump, but donated to every other Republican you've ever thought of or dreamed of or knew of, was like, Donald Trump is I mean, I wanna find the Ken Griffin quote because I feel like it's one of these things where it's like, "No, he didn't really say that," but he really did say that, in fact, and even, like, the cover of The Economist, right? This is The Economist, okay? The woke Economist. This is, like, not The Nation, says only 1,361 days to go, and then it has a picture of, like, a bald eagle that looks like it's been through what we've all been through in the last
yeah,
almost 100 days.
yeah, yeah. No, it's true. I mean, again, there's another irony of feeling like the saviors of our republic are going to have to be like bond traders
Yes.
and and Wall Street. You know, as a socialist myself, I'm kind of like, oh God, yes, okay, they're coming to our rescue. The people who just move money around and make money that way. But it's true that they really just got out. They got out over their skis. I mean, and it's one of the
I'm
things I
gonna read this to you
go
because
ahead.
I feel like I'm sorry to do this. I know you're a socialist. I have one of my kids is a Marxist. My husband's is like a blue anon capitalist. So he's like, we're gonna fix
Yeah, hey,
America
hey,
through
hey, it takes all types, you know?
right. We have it all. And then I have a never Trump Republican and I have one good kid. Um, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I have lots of good kids. The United States was more than just a nation, it's a brand. Okay, I'm sure you love
Yeah.
this. It's a universal brand, whether it's our country or our financial strength, our military strength. It was like an aspiration for the world. We're eroding that brand right now. Okay, like I mean, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but if you're a Republican donor saying that, like, it's a big
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it
All right.
makes me wonder about, and this is we can only speculate about, but like, what are the circumstances that have made them so hubristic? Is it just that the goal of surrounding him with only yes men and women, and the goal of, you know, retribution being the kind of like, you know, the reason, you know, for his presidency? Is it just that there's nobody going, hey, wait a minute, the bond markets are going to freak out if we do this? You know,
Yeah.
like Ken Griffin, uh, you know, people don't always answer his calls, or like, what is it that creates this license in their minds that makes them think that they can get away with it?
You know, what Trump did was he scared these people, and they were scared of him. I mean, that's like
Yeah.
Lisa
Yeah.
Murkowski. They don't want the mean tweets. They don't wanna have to pay for security. They don't want MAGA 1, 2, 3 coming outside their house with a gun. I actually think about this a lot, and you as a student of history, I actually wanted to talk to you about this, which is so my grandfather was jailed by the House Un-American Activity, Howard Fast, and he was a communist, refused to name names.
Yeah.
Not a particularly brave guy, right?
Hmm.
Not, but did the right thing in that moment. I believe that part of how we got here is that, like, we are just in modern life, we are not used to bravery of any sort.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because if you look at, like, the sort of the last 50
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to go to tackle this, but like I generally think that yeah, the kind of resources that we have as a political and moral culture for rewarding true bravery, moral courage, selflessness are just depleted like
Right,
profoundly. And I think there's a million reasons you could point to for that. I mean, I think like kind of the neoliberal turn and the kind of the fact that people are so much more isolated from each other and the kind of atomization that comes with privatization and I think that but also I think yeah I think that I mean I'm gonna sound like a fogey here but like kids heroes are influencers
right,
the kind of like models for kind of greatness are all celebrity and fame and kind of getting your own. I mean,
right,
the lessons of the manosphere or whatever are just like get up, get the paper, like work, get it for yourself, and that is it takes actually effort as a political community to produce, this other idea of what success is or because naming names that's saving your own hide. And there's like a lot of kind of
right,
like
right.
sort of what would seem like commonsensical norms in this country about like you're a sucker if you don't save your own hide when you can. You're a sucker. And so yeah, I think, but people rise to the occasion. I think there's also just sort of a suspicion of kind of self-aggrandizing political heroism because that stuff is also kind of infused with this suspicion about, or are you just doing this for the fame? Are you just doing this for a popularity contest? I mean, it's one of those things that I always think about the right is that whenever somebody in a position of power blows the whistle or something, the right will just always say, "Oh, they did this because they're a Democrat. They did this because they're getting
Right,
paid. They paid protesters." Like I think that there's an
right,
enormous number of people on the right that just don't believe that anybody just goes and protests. I
right.
think they really believe because
No,
it's inconceivable to them that someone would take the time to do that and have some kind of like actual genuine concern that is not reducible to self-interest.
yeah.
I think that's a problem across our culture. I think the right has really, kind of just a desiccated sense of what like human generosity
But
can
it's
be and do.
but it is interesting if you think about it, right? Like this idea of paid protesters, they stormed the Capitol. So they
Yeah.
obviously feel strongly about some stuff, right? I mean, a
No.
lot of those people went to jail,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's true. It's true.
But
But I mean, it's
but I
also just
agree.
it's a solipsism. It's like, well, people on our side have genuine beliefs, but
Right.
how could
Right.
how could how could the others?
But I also think that, like, we find ourselves in a moment here where there is such a cynicism from the right and also I think from the left. That's what it feels like you're talking about is like, they're paid none of this is real,
Yeah.
right? They're paid
Yeah.
protesters. And I mean, that goes the whole ethos of Elon Musk, right? That we're all non-playing characters, that he's the
Yes.
only right?
Yeah.
And that is something that a lot of very wealthy people believe or know enough to not say they believe, but do secretly
Right.
believe
Right.
because life has worked out so well for them that they are the only playing characters and that everything else is a simulation to like lessen or increase their own experience.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's another contributing, like tributary to this crisis of moral courage is also that there's an enormous number of people and there are cultures in this country. I mean, I think the Silicon Valley culture is particularly bad in this regard, which encourage you to think of other people as not as real as you.
Right.
Um, And I don't know, we did several episodes on Musk, and that kind of like sort of steeped in his whole gestalt and moral universe, and it was really disgusting. And I also just encountered a lot more of the kind of common sense ideas about what matters in the world and how the world works from the Silicon Valley kind of, insular world. And there was so much of that NPC stuff. And it's like, I just remember this tweet that I saw that was just one of many like this, but that was just from some kind of tech world influencer who was saying how sorry, how sad she was for most people in the country who will never like do anything heroic.
Yeah, well,
That like
they
that they
may.
will
They may
they
have to
very
because of
they
this administration.
they very well may, and they do every day. I mean, I can get very maudlin about this, but I have a great belief in the everyday heroism of regular people, and actually quite little confidence in the capacity for heroism of the very wealthy and privileged.
I agree, and we are out of time. I hope
Oh
you will
wow!
come back. Yeah, well, it's fast.
Anytime.
It's not one of these, like, fancy
Oh,
dissent
our
like we
podcast goes
do.
on and on and on and
No, I
on. Yeah.
know.